Welcome to the Connor's Corner segment of Ask the Lawyer. Our next guest right now is probably the best voice in radio, who you can hear on these stations every week, Monday through Friday, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Welcome to Connor's Corner.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now you got a book out, The War for America's Soul. What's it about?
Very much what its title says. We are in a war. This nation is in a war for our future, for the soul of this nation, and to recapture the values upon which it was founded. We have a country where one of the two political parties has become extreme, has become radical, is typified by anti-Semites like Alexander Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. We have a party that says, hell yes, we're coming after your guns, a party that wants to give taxpayer-funded health care to illegal aliens. We have a party that's out of control, and they wish to subvert the last election and undermine the next one, and that's why they're trying to impeach President Donald Trump, a man who has not committed any crimes. At least I haven't heard one Democrat tell me why they're impeaching the 45th president.
Looking over your book, one thing I was surprised, you dwell upon the philosophies. You're talking about philosophers nobody in the audience has heard except people who read an awful lot, but you think they're very influential in the ascent of the left.
Yeah, I needed to answer that question. How did we get here? I get asked that a lot when I travel around the country. People say, how did this happen? And I was sure that it wasn't, 8 years of Obama. You didn't just flick a switch and suddenly you have people like the Butcher of Richmond, Governor Northam, Ralph Northam of Virginia saying, well, third trimester abortions, well, we could actually kill the child after it's born. That doesn't happen overnight. So I sat down, I did the requisite research. I was helped a great deal by an incredible man who we lost far too early, and that's Andrew Breitbart and his book, Righteous Indignation. And my goal is I took what I learned from him and others, and in the War for America's Soul, I map out what the antecedents of this radicalism are, how the Democrats became this party of extremists who hate this country. And it's all there. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's the names, it's the dates, going right back to an Italian communist in prison called Antonio Gramsci, who begins it all, right through the Frankfurt School, right through the Saul Alinsky. I even have original passages from Hillary Clinton's Wesleyan dissertation on Saul Alinsky as one of my appendices to the book, just to prove to people that this didn't come out of nowhere. The left had a plan, and sadly, it's been working, and we've been letting them succeed.
The question is, who's they who have a plan? Who are those people that start? Who's the Frankfurt Institute? Who were they, I should say?
Well, these are mostly German philosophers who left Germany in the 1930s, were welcome here in Berkeley and Columbia and across the Ivy League. And these were people who came up with, Adorno and others who came up with this idea of a deconstructionism, critical studies. These are the people that led eventually to authors like Howard Zinn, who wrote the most influential Marxist school book in use today, The People's History of America, and it goes all the way to Hillary Clinton and Obama. So these are people who believe that America believes that everything has to be expressed in terms of victims and oppressors, and that their job is to subvert the greatest nation on God's earth.
You mentioned Hillary Clinton, and she wrote a paper on Saul Alinsky. Who was Saul Alinsky, and what were his tactics?
Well, he called himself a community organizer. He was a hardcore communist who, based out of Chicago, really took the abstruse writings of Gramsci and others and translated them into a playbook, into a way to actually defeat the institutions of Judeo-Christian civilization. And his great contribution, quote unquote, to the left was to say that you can't defeat, communism only worked in Russia because of its peasant class, because it was mostly an uneducated feudal or quasi-feudal system. He said in a robust, healthy nation, a Western democracy like America, the radicals are never going to win if they go up against the establishment head on. So he said, don't do that. You've got to subvert the institutions, the healthy institutions from the inside. whether it's the bureaucracy, whether it's the unions, whether it's, the nuclear family. You subvert them from the inside, and that's how we win. And unfortunately, Saul Alinsky's book, Rule for Radicals, became the textbook for the left. And that's why the only picture you can find of quote-unquote constitutional law professor Barack Obama teaching is a photograph when he's standing in front of a chalkboard and he is diagramming out Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. That's all you need to know.
How did these radicals take over the Democratic Party? I mean, the Democratic Party of our fathers was not the Democratic Party today. How did they take it over?
Very, very assiduously, with persistence, with 24/7 dedication to their cause. It's less a question of how they took over the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is a creature of the left. It's more a question of how we let them as conservatives. Because it's not about the party, it's about our culture. This is another great contribution from Andrew Breitbart, who taught us that politics is downstream from culture. Look at American culture today, whether it's the media, whether it's Hollywood, whether it's our high schools, whether it's our colleges. They have been captured by the left. You can go to an Ivy League school today and major in English literature and for 4 years not study Shakespeare, the greatest author that ever lived in any culture. Why? Because he's a dead, white, heterosexual male. That's the insanity. And why did they succeed? Because guess what? We let them. The right didn't do anything to stop these people, and as such, we were lurching towards the snooze button as they slowly took over our culture.
What are we going to do now? What should the public do now? How do we wake ourselves up?
Well, this is why I wrote The War for America's Soul. There's a couple of appendices in there on exactly this question, and my answer is, I don't care where you are, whether you're in Massachusetts, California, or Texas, you have a role to play. Every single person listening to this show, everybody who reads The War for America's Soul, I don't care how old you are, I don't care how technologically challenged you deem yourself to be. If you're not on social media, if you don't have a Twitter account, a Facebook account, an Instagram account, guess what? You are part of the problem. You are not part of the solution. There's a reason that the president has more than 60 million followers on Twitter alone. We have to push back on the liars. We have to push back on the propaganda. We have to call out the corruption, whether it's at a local, school board or anywhere else. So every single person everywhere in America has a role to play. Your action counts. Don't just cut a check to the local candidate. Be part of the solution. Be a force multiplier for the president. Get out on social media and call out the bullies, because that's all they are. They're just bullies.
What's in the future? The War for America's Soul. Who's going to win it?
Well, it's up to us. There's a saying that almost every single country has in its own language. Every nation deserves the government that they elect for themselves. So we've got 380 odd days left. The question is, are you going to do everything that it takes to support this president? It's an indictment of the GOP, the Republican Party, that in the last 3 years, only a handful of representatives and senators have had the president's back out of several hundred people with the letter R behind their name. It's a dozen people. It's Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, it's Louis Gohmert, it's Devin Nunes, it's Mark Meadows, it's Lindsey Graham, and we've almost exhausted the list. We have to be part of the solution. We have to make sure that this man who gave us a grace, a window towards liberty in 2016 is reelected. So everybody listening to your show, do your part, get out there, be a force multiplier for the president politically.
And don't forget to tune in 970 The Answer Monday through Friday to listen to Dr. Sebastian Gorka. And the name of the book, The War for America's Soul. Thank you, Doctor, for being on our show. Good luck to you. Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. And if anybody wants a signed copy, just go to sebgorka.com, SEBGORKA, sebgorka.com.
sebgorka.com. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, guys.